Hey adventurers, so today is going to be my next video, or kind of like my part 2 video for my adventure through science fiction. This is basically the same type of video as I do for my adventure through Arthurian Lit, and this is a part 2, this is the next version, or next video in this series, if you want to call it that, of me talking about my developing and evolving thoughts on the science fiction genre as I continue to read books in the genre, kind of using it as a place to benchmark, I guess, the reading that I've done in the genre specifically. I could do one for fantasy, except that I read so much fantasy that it probably wouldn't be worthwhile, or else I'd have to do one like every couple of months. We'll see. Maybe that's something that I want to do at some point, but for now I just want to do the sci-fi one and the Arthurian Lit one, and we'll see what else happens from there. I do want to start by going over some of the rereads that I've reread since last time, since those kind of don't really count in the same way. They do, but they're like, that's not the focus of these videos. The focus is to see how things have changed with the new books that I'm reading. The first one that I reread was Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. This is one that I loved the first time, but is very atmospheric, just very beautiful, very descriptive piece of literature, science fiction, where you're immersed in this world and you don't know what's going on. The characters don't know what's going on. You're just kind of experiencing the world as the story goes. And I really love the book. I think it's fantastic. I believe I talked more about it in my first video, so as well as my review, I have a review of it as well, and as well as the wrap-ups that I've talked about it and when reading it. So I recommend going and finding those, because I'll give more thoughts on it there. Next one, though, that I did a reread of is Dreamer Awake by Liam Cutie Hall. This is kind of fantasy. This is cyberpunk and sword and sorcery kind of blended, is how it's pitched here, inspired by the classics of sword and sorcery and cyberpunk. So it definitely falls into the science fiction category, but it's kind of a subset of that, kind of off to the side a little bit. Not to say that, I'm not using that as a way of diminishing the story or anything. This is a fantastic, brilliant, I think it's way better than people want to think that it is, because if it's as good as I think it is, people not having read it is kind of doing it a disservice, because I genuinely think it's fantastic and just a great piece of work. It's colored through that lens of sword and sorcery, and very much a revenge story, and so it's kind of, there's a lot of aspects of it that are pulpy, and there's nothing wrong with that, actually, but it uses that setting as a way of actually telling something a lot deeper, exploring character and personality and soul in a lot of ways. And it's just a really cool exploration of this character and just the story that's going on here. Anyways, I think it's fantastic. I think it's way better than people give it credit for. I reread it because the audiobook came out, and very happy that I did, because the first time I read it, I really liked it. The second time I read it, liked it even more. It's great, in my opinion. All right, so now we get into the books that I actually read. The first one that would be on this list is Eversion by Blake Crouch. And not Blake Crouch, I always say that. Eversion by Alastair Reynolds. I always say that it's by Blake Crouch, and it's not. Eversion by Alastair Reynolds. This is a very cool science fiction story. They're all science fiction, so I don't really need to talk about that. But it's a very cool, conceptually very cool story, which is kind of the case with a lot of sci-fi. It's very conceptual a lot of the times. And I like that. That's something that I like about sci-fi. That's something that I've known that I've liked about sci-fi. But this one, it's kind of told in the first 3/4 of it are basically historical fiction. It's these characters on a ship going and exploring a mystery, and trying to understand that mystery, trying to figure out what's going on in this, and you take that first chunk, and it was so interesting to me. And then that first quarter ends, and then the second quarter does the same thing, and I'm starting to think, wait, didn't we just experience this? Isn't this something that we just saw? And then we do the same thing in the third quarter, and then that fourth quarter, the finale, if you want to call it that, the climax, is what ties all those previous 3 together and helps us to understand. It explains the reason why those first 3 parts, first 3 experiences are the way that they are and what they mean. And it's fascinating the way that he does it. I think the first 3 parts are some of the best storytelling I've ever read. Some of the best sci-fi I've ever read. That fourth quarter doesn't work nearly as well for me personally. I didn't think that it was quite as strong, and so it was almost my book of the month, but because that last quarter wasn't quite as strong, it ended up tying with A Tale of Two Cities, and I think A Tale of Two Cities actually should be my book of the month for that month. Anyways, it doesn't matter. That's a different conversation. But this was very good. Eversion was very good. Very cool to see how you can, and it's kind of a concept that I've thought about myself, is how would the same story be told in different ways? And that's kind of what it's dealing with, and I really like and appreciate that. Then Driving Blind by Ray Bradbury. This is another one of his short story collections. So it's not always science fiction. It's not always horror or thriller or disturbing, but it's oftentimes a mixture of those things, and the individual stories can be one or the other, or a combination as well. And so yeah, Driving Blind, as always, as with everything Bradbury related, he's very atmospheric. I love his writing. I love the way that he tells stories. I really appreciate reading his short stories, because basically from reading his short stories, I have learned about short stories and how to write them and how to create them and how to tell a story in such a succinct manner. But also I'm finding by reading his short stories, as well as the other short stories that I've read, I'm finding that I really like short stories. That's a medium that I really appreciate what can be done with it, and the exploration and the way that you can just dive into a specific thing and go really deep into it and leave you asking questions when you come out the other side. And that's something that I really appreciate. So yeah, I really like the short stories as well. And even though it's not the short story collections aren't my favorite Bradburys, like Dandelion Wine is my favorite Bradbury, followed by Something Wicked This Way Comes. Basically, that's kind of the way that I look at them. So his longer stories I prefer personally, but that doesn't mean that his short stories are bad. It just means that basically for me, it means that the short stories are teaching me things in a way that the novels oftentimes don't, because I'm so used to the novel format. I'm not so used to the short story format, and so I'm using the short stories as a means of research in a way that I don't as much with novels. I still do, but anyways, that's a different conversation as well. Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. This is one where I hadn't read the book previously, but I kind of somewhat knew the story. I knew that there was Frankenstein and he created this monster, and the monster came alive, and there was a whole bunch of explorations of humanity and right and wrong and stuff like that. I knew there was a whole bunch of stuff going on, and I knew there was a whole bunch of stuff that went into it after just from my knowledge of it from pop culture, but I didn't really understand the story. I didn't really know the story of this book. And so when I went in to read it, and I was kind of blown away with it. For one, I really like the audiobook that I listened to was narrated by Jim Weiss, who is a storyteller and audiobook narrator that I have listened to my entire childhood. He is part of the homeschool community, where he does a whole bunch of stuff with the homeschooling community and provides resources to students. And he's great. He's got a great voice as a narrator. He's just a fantastic narrator. And I realized as I was listening to this book, because it's been a long time, a lot of years since I've listened to a Jim Weiss story of some sort, I realized, because I listened to him so much as a kid, when I was listening to this one, I realized I have taken a lot of my approach to acting from him. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It's kind of just like a inspiration, and I learned so much by listening to him tell stories about how I can act and how I do act and stuff like that. And so it's very interesting on that front. But the story itself, he does a fantastic job with the story, and he immerses you so much in the story that is already such an immersive story. Very atmospheric, very interesting, the conversations that are had. I came away with it with a different perspective and opinion than I think most people do. And I'm excited to explore I haven't written my review for this one yet. It's coming up soon. It's one that I need to write fairly soon here, but I'm excited to discuss that because I had so many thoughts regarding it, and there's so much to discuss here. Anyways, I'm going to leave that there because it is getting long, but yeah, fantastic as well. Next was A Soul Divided by Daniel M. Quilter, I believe is the author. And this is one where he sent me the audiobook. This is the Bloodfire Trilogy, I believe is the series title. And I really didn't know a whole lot about this book. I really didn't know a whole lot about the story, but it sounded very fun. It was kind of, from my understanding, based on my understanding of pop culture and what people have told me, this is kind of, and also his pitch to me, this is kind of like a mixture of Star Wars and Halo and Firefly. I haven't watched Firefly. I do know enough about Halo, though, that I can talk about that and include that in my comparisons, but it's very much like a Star Wars and Firefly and Halo type story, where you have this scoundrel smuggler type character who's going on an adventure and gets roped into something that he is bigger than just him. And it's very fun. It's very enjoyable. Yeah, it's one of those science fiction books that I think is one of my favorites that I've read, just due to the enjoyment factor of it. I had a lot of fun reading this book. I had just in general, I had a good time with it. More than anything else, that's kind of what I have to say about it. There's some cool, again, cool concepts that are being explored, some interesting ways of building out and developing the universe that he's existing in. And so there's some really good things about the story on that front too. But I did just have a really good time with it, and that's there's nothing wrong with that. I enjoy reading books for the enjoyment's sake as well. All right, then I had Kenai by Dave Dobson, I believe is the author. And this is one where the author reached out to me and said, hey, are you interested in reading and reviewing any of my books? And so I was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And he asked me which one would I like to read. And Kenai, being titled Kenai, caught my eye because it's titled Kenai, and I'm an Alaskan, and Kenai is a city in Alaska. And so automatically I was drawn to that one for that sake. And there are references to Alaska in the book, as there's a reason why it's named Kenai, and why I believe Ninilchik is the other one that is the other planet that we see something about. If my memory serves, it's either that or Nikiski. It might be Nikiski, but doesn't matter. Anyways, just some really cool stuff. Like that side of things, I enjoyed it and appreciated it because it's related to Alaska in some small way. But also I thought that he did a really good exploration of the concept that he was exploring. And it was kind of, in some ways, a time travel or time dilation story, or a reversal of time story, if you want to go with it in that direction. And I actually kind of like that. I don't like it generally. I tend to not enjoy time travel stuff, any stories messing with time, because it falls into what's the word that I'm looking for? Basically, it's never believable. I pick holes in it all the time. Not all the time. But anyways, I thought that this did a good job with the concept that it was exploring and the mystery of how that worked, and the slow reveal of trying to understand it. It's kind of mind-boggling in some aspects, but I thought that Dobson did a good job at making it clear and helping you to understand as you're going and learning more. As the character was learning more, you were also learning it with the character, and it was being explained at the right time so that you were able to understand it and put it into place and apply it to the story being told. Dobson does a great job with alien races. I feel like he found a good way to create an alien race that feels alien. It doesn't feel like it's human at all. There's some different, culturally, there's some things that are very different. And I like that. I thought that was really interesting. So yeah, this was a good one for me that I ended up enjoying a lot. And I had a good time with this one, and I had a good time exploring the concepts that he was playing with. Then we've got Aftermath Life Debt by Chuck Wendig. This is the second book in the Aftermath trilogy. This is Star Wars, of course. And this is very meh to me. This is very middling, very middle of the road, just nothing terribly gripping, nothing terribly bad about it. There's some things, the concept of exploring the universe, exploring the galaxy in the aftermath of the fall of the Empire. That's a really cool concept. That's a really cool place to tell a story. There's a lot of story that could be told there. And I just feel like Wendig doesn't quite capitalize on it as much as it could be. And he's not telling the most interesting story. He's also doing something where we've got this massive galaxy-spanning story that's being told, and he's trying to ground us in that story by focusing on specific characters and telling their individual stories as the means of grounding us and making us relate to the story that's going on. And I feel like it doesn't work quite as well as I'd like it to. And so that's disappointing, but I'm glad that I'm reading them because I like the Star Wars. I do like Star Wars. I love Star Wars. I like reading Star Wars books, and I'm trying to get through some of my physical TBR, some of the books that I physically own. So I'm glad to be going through these books that I physically own, even though I'm listening to them on audio. And I am due to read the next book. I don't think I've written my review for this one yet, and so I haven't moved on to the next book yet. Anyways, that doesn't matter. I'll get to that one hopefully fairly soon and be able to finish that up. Next was Daros, also by Dave Dobson. This is from what I understand, based off the two books that I've read of Dobson's now, a lot of his sci-fi books take place in a shared universe, shared galaxy. Universe is probably better than galaxy because they may explore different galaxies. In fact, I think they do. But we explore different planets, different characters, different events with the different books, but it's all kind of, the history is all kind of the same. We just go off in different directions and explore different areas. So Daros didn't work nearly as well for me as Kenai did. I really liked Kenai. Daros was kind of, there were some cool things about it. There's some things that I really enjoyed. There's some concepts, again, that we were playing with. I think that Dobson does a great job with alien races once again, but the story itself didn't grip me nearly as much, and the main character didn't grip me, and in fact kind of annoyed me a little bit more than in Kenai. So I really liked Kenai, and Daros I didn't quite enjoy as much. It doesn't mean I'll never read another Dobson. I think that I probably would read some more Dobson, but of the two, Kenai definitely I really liked, and Daros a little bit less so. Then we get to Empire of Silence by Christopher Rocchio, and this is fantastic. This is just one of the best books I've ever read, one of my favorite books of the year for sure, one of my favorite science fiction books that I've ever read, and I am so kind of just absolutely blown away with the quality of Empire of Silence. It's kind of written perfectly exactly for me, and the weird thing about this is there is some language, profanity, there is some adult content, very, very limited, nothing graphic, at least not so far, but there is some, but none of it bothers me. The way that Rocchio is telling the story, the characters who are using it, the way that it's utilized and done in the story doesn't bother me. I'm able to just read the book and be like, huh, okay, that's part of this character, and I move on, and it doesn't bother me whatsoever. And so that's a testament to the quality of Rocchio's writing and storytelling, that can be the case where it doesn't bother me in this story. Could it be done without it? And I would prefer that, probably, but as it is, I'm not bothered by it whatsoever, because the story is, there's so much else going on that feels more natural than not having it, almost, in a lot of ways. So anyways, this story though, this is just, this is book 1 in a 7-book series where each book just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I don't know anything about this series. Like, I don't know where this series is going. I do, because you're told in the beginning that of the book, and by the series title, that it's going to end with Hadrian destroying a star somehow. I don't know how that happens, how we get there. I'm following that journey as we build to that point, but there's clearly so much, such a buildup of power in this character that when it starts, he's just a human. Not just a human, but essentially he's humanity. He's the everyday person, nobility technically, but he's still kind of the everyday person. And you're following him, and you're seeing how he grows and how he becomes the mythic figure that he is by the end of the series. And we're just seeing a small chapter of that, a small piece of that. And just the way that Rocchio develops this story and builds this story, it works so well for me. And I'm excited to talk about it. I have a really long review written out for it. And so I think my plan at this point is to read the entirety of the series and then review them all. Just put all my reviews out one after another, so that there's no breaks, and I can kind of just dump all my thoughts all at once, and that'll be fun. That'll be kind of a new experience for me that I haven't really done. So I'm excited for that. The next one is a short story, and this is The Purgatory of Martin Merriweather by Andrew D. Meredith. What is this in? This is Incense Punk magazine, if I remember correctly. It's free to read online. I absolutely recommend it, because this is fantastic. This is one of the best, again, time travel, timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly type stuff going on here. And it is brilliant. I don't usually have a problem following science fiction concepts. I can usually understand what's going on. I can usually understand how and what an author is doing, or a creator or filmmaker or whatever, like Christopher Nolan, for example. I follow Inception just fine. Don't have any problem with Inception. Don't have any problem with Interstellar, although I do need to rewatch it. Tenet was a little bit more confusing. I need to rewatch that one as well, though. But that's the sort of thing, like, I don't have a problem following Christopher Nolan's science fiction epics. So I don't really have a problem with a lot of the other science fiction books that I read. This one got me. This one, there was, and it's not in the story. I understood the story that was going on. That didn't bother me. There was one piece of the science fiction concept that Meredith was playing with that I need to reread it to grasp how it all fits together. I saw it coming. I understood what was going on. I just didn't quite figure out the science behind how it worked. That's meant as praise for Meredith. That's meant as well done, not a this was bad because I couldn't understand it. No, that's meant as you did a really good job with this. And just the story as a whole, it's fantastic. It's brilliant. I really like this story. Yeah, definitely recommend that one as well. And we are getting long, so let's see if I can speed it up a little bit. Don't Die Dave by A.R. Witham. So I like Witham. I really like his Kmark novels. I don't know that I like lit RPG as a genre. I don't feel like that's something that's going to work for me. I don't feel like there's maybe a ton of value to that genre as a whole. But I really like this book. This is a really fun book. We get to explore some cool things. We're sent into a video game with Dave, and he has to survive. He has to live. And the characters we interact with, the way that it just feels so much like a video game. It feels like Fortnite and a couple other things. I'd already done my review, so go watch my review for more explanation of what this book is and what I think of it type stuff. But I definitely really enjoyed and had a fun time with this book, and I really appreciated seeing kind of a different aspect of the genre that I am not used to. I haven't really read any lit RPG up until this point. That's kind of the first one that I've read. Not kind of, that is the first one I've read. And with that, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how to interpret it. I didn't know what was going to happen. And in a lot of ways, the genre I don't think is for me, as I already mentioned. But this book was really fun, and I trust Witham as a storyteller. And so I was able to go into this book and enjoy the book for what it is, even though it's not something that I think would work for me in a lot of other areas. Yeah, I think I'll leave it there. I have my review up for it, and so I'd recommend going and watching that. The Honor Anthology by 22 different authors. This is technically sci-fi and fantasy, and so there is some fantasy stories in here. But the sci-fi one specifically again, this is short stories. This is a collection of short stories by 22 different authors. And the sci-fi ones, there's some really cool stuff going on in these. Again, short stories, so I get to experience the short stories and I get to understand and learn more about the process of telling a short story. And so that's really fun for me. That's something that I really appreciate. The sci-fi stories specifically, though, as I'm going through here, for one, I was really excited about this because it gives me an opportunity to taste test and sample so many different authors and so many different storytelling styles and worlds and characters and stories. But we also get a lot of sci-fi concepts. I think the most sci-fi concept heavy one is the final story, which in the book, which is Occam's Circuit by Sam Paisley. And there's some really interesting sci-fi concepts going on there. Some things, it's kind of a little bit heartbreaking in some ways, and just it's very interesting way of telling the story, and makes you question some things and makes you wonder about some things, but also his execution of it is so well done. Anyways, there's just a lot of really good short stories in here. All of them are really good. There's some really good science fiction ones, though, since that's what we're talking about, and I recommend that. I, again, don't really have a whole lot to say because it's a whole bunch of individual short stories, but there's some really good stuff in here, and I learned a lot about short storytelling. We then have Proxima Station by Mike Mullman. This is a sci-fi series. What is the series called? Proxima Station Saga or something like that. Yeah, Proxima Station Saga. I'm good at this. I remember things. Anyways, this is one where a anthropologist basically gets kidnapped and sent to space, and he has to figure out how to deal with these alien races that are based off of Mullman's dogs. And it's hilarious. It's very much just like a comedic science fiction romp, really. And it's fun. It's a lot of fun. And Mullman, as always, tells a good story. He's got a good eye for storytelling and for just making something that is enjoyable to read. And it's very short. With acknowledgements, is 131 pages. It's a fairly short read, and it's a very fast read as well. It's fun to see Mullman explore these different alien races that are based off of your dogs, or off of his dogs, and so you get to see the personalities of his dogs, but also see how he used those as a foundation for building up the different alien races, and how that works and how they develop into different characters and different species and stuff like that. And it's really fun. It's a really good, I thought that it was a really fun exploration, and there's more books in the series to come. I think I have the audiobook for book 2, and so I need to get to that one at some point soon as well. Anyways, this is fun too. Just a couple more here. The Lesser Devil by Christopher Rocchio. This is one of the novellas set in between the main books in the series, and so I read this one so that I could continue on with the series. And this follows Crispin, Hadrian's brother, and it's a much smaller story, a much kind of more of a single event type story. And there's some really cool stuff here. Again, some great world building, some great character development for Crispin, as well as Sabine and a lot of the other characters that we meet. The thing that got me with this one that I really enjoyed and appreciated was seeing how, once again, we're seeing how Earth influences and has influenced the history of this series. You can't escape it. It's there. I mean, the fact that we run into the Museum Catholics, I believe is what they're called. There's a group of basically Catholics that are in this world, in this series, and Crispin comes across them and he has to learn from them and about them and kind of protect them in a lot of ways. And it's very much an event focused story, but you get to explore this world and get to explore this character of Crispin by seeing something that's so familiar to us in this world that is not familiar at all. So there's some really good stuff in here. I had a lot of fun reading this book, and I'm excited to get all my Sun Eater books read so that I can then go through and review them all. The last one that I have finished at the time of filming this is One More for the Road by Ray Bradbury. Again, this is a collection of Ray Bradbury short stories. I don't have a whole lot more to add based off of what I already discussed in regards to whatever the other, Driving Blind, I think was the other one that I discussed in this video. So I don't really have a whole lot more to say in regards to it. Just a lot of the same things. Learned a lot about short storytelling. I learned a lot about, what is it that I learned? Short storytelling, science fiction, weird fiction, Ray Bradbury, just a lot of the same things. And it's good. I enjoyed it. It's not my favorite, but I enjoyed a lot of things about it. And the last one that I am currently listening to, and I'll have it finished by the time you see this for sure. But this is the second book in Sun Eater, and that is Howling Dark. So far, I am not enjoying it as much as I enjoyed Empire of Silence. It's good. I don't want to say that it's not good, because it's very good, but it's not nearly as perfectly suited for me as Empire of Silence was. There's some really cool stuff going on. We get to explore a new location and meet a new character and see galaxy spanning ramifications basically from the events that are going on, and it's really cool. And we're setting up and we're seeing how the future is going to be developed for this character of Hadrian Marlowe. There's so much to come. We're laying the seeds, we're laying the foundation for how he's going to get to that point that he somehow destroys a sun and then looks back on his history and decides that it's necessary for him to retell his entire story. I don't know how we're going to get there. I don't know what all the steps are that's going to be there. But this one, we're starting to see some of the things that can help him to build to the point where he can become powerful enough to do that, however that happens. Yeah, it's really cool. There's some really good stuff in it. I'm loving the series, so absolutely, for sure. It's just, I was both dreading but also hoping that each book in the series would get progressively better and better and better, and I love every book in the series more than the previous. And Howling Dark is not quite working as perfectly for me as Empire of Silence did, but that's fine because it's still a fantastic book, and I'm also kind of excited by the idea that I might think Empire of Silence is my favorite book of this 7-book series. I think that'd be kind of cool. Anyways, that's not really important. I am enjoying Howling Dark a lot, and I'm excited to finish it up. I've got about 4 hours left on the audiobook, which would be about 8 hours because I listen to it on double speed. But about 4 hours left, so I'll probably finish it tomorrow, which would be Monday or Tuesday at the latest. And very much enjoying it, very much enjoying what Rockio is doing here. I'm curious to see how it goes forward. I'm hopeful that I'll enjoy the other books more, but also I'm excited by the fact that Empire of Silence might be my favorite in the series. That's kind of cool to me. That's kind of fun because it's different than most people. Anyways, that's not really important. That doesn't really factor into this video at all. Nonetheless, yeah, that's really all I have to talk about regarding the books that I have read. However, I did write a short story, and I might as well talk about it because it is a science fiction short story that I wrote, and so I kind of think that it maybe deserves to be in this video. And it's not very good. It was written as a challenge to myself, as a practice, a opportunity for me to practice some storytelling. I took a lot of inspiration from Kenai, actually. I feel like the tone is actually very similar to what Dave Dobson does with Kenai and Daros and stuff like that, and so that's kind of interesting. That's kind of fun for me. I was able to take some of that and apply it to the storytelling that I was doing here. It's a very short story. It follows two different characters. It's very much an event story. We're trying to get people to survive, trying to save the population of this planet that is rapidly accelerating or rapidly moving towards the star that it's orbiting. And so we're trying to find a way off the planet and trying to get them to survive. And so that's kind of the premise of the story. And so one character is on the planet, one character is in another location on another planet, trying to see if it could become habitable for the people who are on the other planet. And so there's it's not very good. It was designed as a challenge. I asked a coworker to give me a list of prompts, or I gave a list of things that I wanted prompts for, and the coworker filled it out, and I wrote a story based off of that. It was intended as a challenge for me to write a short story and to write an ending, but it did teach me a little bit about storytelling and about science fiction. So that's I just mentioning that because this is kind of my adventure through science fiction. That's kind of what we're talking about here. But yeah, that's really all I have to say. Thank you guys for watching an Erudite adventure. This is longer, ramblier than I wanted it to be. Nonetheless, hopefully there's something of benefit here. We post videos every Monday and Thursday, and have our social medias linked in the description down below. We will see you guys again soon. Stay warm.